video I want to talk about how to maximize growth using the nutrient nitrogen. If you're just starting out, this probably isn't the video for you. It's for the more advanced grower that can already successfully grow their plants and are looking to get a little more out of their growing. So if you're just starting out, please check out my video on general fertilizer use at HTGSupply.com. And if you want to learn about how to maximize growth with nitrogen, keep watching. After water, nitrogen is the most limiting factor to plant growth. So plants need large amounts of nitrogen. And if you've been growing, you should know that all fertilizers list the percentage of nitrogen on them. It's the first number here. So you can see this one is a 612. So the first number is larger than the rest, so this is a high nitrogen fertilizer. And that's what you want to use if you want to maximize the nitrogen intake. Now, nitrogen promotes lots of things metabolically. It's in DNA, it's in a lot of proteins, but in general, it promotes leafy growth. Now, it's important to have a balance between leaf biomass and root biomass. If you give too much nitrogen, your plants will get what's called top heavy. They won't have enough roots, and then they won't be able to support the leaves. They won't have a good photosynthesis rate, and you're not going to grow better. You're actually going to grow worse. So it's important to have this balance. You just don't want to apply lots of nitrogen. That's not the best answer. Applying lots of nitrogen can waste the fertilizer. It can risk toxicity. Too much nitrogen can kill plants. And you risk plants being top heavy. So let's talk about how and when to use nitrogen. So it might be best to talk about when not to apply extra nitrogen. Seedlings need a high phosphorus fertilizer to encourage root growth. Also, I have a plant here that I took cuttings with in the 8-site clone bucket. Now, even though there are some good amount of roots here, maybe as much as there is in the top, when you're taking cuttings or you have seedlings, you want to apply a high phosphorus fertilizer. That's the middle number. Now, when do you apply a high nitrogen fertilizer? I can't tell you to do it after 1 or 2 weeks or too many waterings. You have to look at your plants. So what you want to notice is that the biomass of your plants is getting bigger. So when your plants start to get bigger and they start to have more leaves on them, then you can increase the amount of nitrogen. Also, another thing is you want to look for side branching here. If your plants produce side branching, once your plants start to get big and produce side branching, then you can add more nitrogen. Now, a lot of people will have several different types of fertilizers. They'll have one high phosphorus fertilizer for seedlings and flowering, and a high nitrogen fertilizer for vegetative growth. And that's perfectly fine. I've done that myself. Another option is to have a fertilizer that's high in phosphorus for the beginning and the end, and then use something like I have this STUMP tea here, and this is the Veggie Boost version. So you can see this is 10-0-0, so this is all nitrogen. So you can simply use this during the vegetative period, add this to your phosphorus fertilizer, and that will work great for your plants. Now, one thing I do want to make clear is that you should never give your plants only a nitrogen fertilizer, because scientific studies were conducted and it shows that when you give plants nitrogen, they do not grow as well as when you give them nitrogen with phosphorus. Apparently phosphorus is important in nitrogen uptake, or it helps plants metabolically use the nitrogen better. So when you're growing, start off using a high phosphorus fertilizer for the seedlings or when you're taking cuttings. And once your plants have established some biomass, once they've gotten bigger, you start to see side branching here, then switch over to a high nitrogen fertilizer and keep that until you start to see flowering. Once your plants begin to flower, or you want to flower your plants, you're going to switch back to a high phosphorus fertilizer. So always follow the instructions, but if you're willing to tweak it a little bit, some plants can use more nitrogen than others. Instructions on fertilizers are general instructions. So once you've grown your plants a few times, after they're established as seedlings, maybe try to add a little more nitrogen. Maybe use a product like this STUMP Tea Veggie Boost, which is just nitrogen. Use this with your high phosphorus fertilizer to promote lush green growth. And when your plants are growing green and lushly, they will have an excellent flowering and you'll get an excellent harvest. Please feel free to email me at askthedoctor@HTGSupply if you have any questions. Good growing.